You're listening to the Custom Built Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the pre-construction planning that you can't afford to miss when it comes to your home renovation and remodels. So stay tuned. Why is the pre-construction planning one of the most crucial steps you can take for your home renovation or remodel? Is because without this step, you're more likely to blow your budget, blow your timeline. And I mean, let's face it, that's a lot of the stressors when it comes to your home renovation and budget, right? So I talked a lot about why you need to know your comfort level as far as your pricing last week. And I want to continue on that because you don't just need to know where your comfort levels are in your home renovation number, so what your budget is, but you also need to have an inkling of what you want to do. And it's okay if you don't have like the fine details, but that's why we do the pre-construction work ahead of time. And I'm kind of lumping this in together because really what I'm talking about is you got the pre-design, preliminary parts, and then you got the pre-construction parts. And both of them need to happen before you really start breaking ground. And if you're breaking ground without having some of these really fine details already defined, you're more likely looking into change orders. You're more likely looking into confusion. You're more likely looking into communication, miscommunications, right? So there's going to be a lot more stress involved without having these details already defined. And you can do this with your whoever you hire for your with your contractor, or you can do this with a designer. Sometimes you can get a designer and a contractor and they work together, or we can work together and get you at least started in these moments where we can really dwindle down what that big cost is. Because you're talking about a $5,000, like a $3,000 to $5,000 pre-construction fee. So this is even before you start breaking ground. And then you're also talking about a $3,000 to $5,000 preliminary design with like only a few options. Now, we're not talking like super custom high-end stuff. You always want to have a designer is always valuable to have when you're trying to work through what you want for your home. And the reason is because they're not just looking at the pretty finishes at the end. I know that can be misconstrued, but interior design really thinks about your function. It thinks about how you're living in your house. They're going to help you with like spatial design and how you want to, like how you actually live in your house. That's how your interior design is going to be functioning around your space. And the construction side is just making it all come to life. And so they're both super valuable, but we put a lot of weight on this construction side because that's when you start seeing it happen. The interior design side and that beginning part, they're putting the picture together for you, but the contractor is making it a reality for you. And so you really want to have these two working together, and you want to have this step ahead of time. So things that you can do ahead of time before you get with a contractor or a designer is, one, identify what it is that you're looking to do. Are you looking to do your bathroom, your kitchen, your living room? Are you putting an addition on your house? Are you going to be if you're doing an addition, are you going forward from your house, backwards, on the sides? So now you got to look at your neighborhood. You want to know what the rules are. You want to know what setbacks are. These are things your contractor can help you in. Same thing if you have your contractor will probably hire an architect, just an architect who can help with the drawing. Same with an interior designer. Either one of them can help you do that, and they can also help with the setbacks in your area. But to empower yourself in this time, it's really not that hard to go to your town hall or your city hall, right? And contact the permits office and just ask them about their rules and regulations. They really, most of the time, are more than happy to help you, tell you what kind of rules and regulations you need to worry about. And that just lets you be more informed. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know all the rules and the codes for everything. But if you have an idea of what your setbacks are, now you're just one step ahead and one step knowledgeable in understanding what's realistic for what you want for your home. That kind of felt like a lot of mumbling, jumbling information, but this is all very relevant and very easy to obtain, and things that as somebody that's never been through a home renovation or in the construction world, might not even realize they need to focus on. There's other parts that you need to think about too. If you're adding an addition or you're adding some extra square footage in your house, do you have enough HVAC power? Does your HVAC have enough juice in it to run the whole space that you're adding? Or do you need to upgrade? Are your ductworks old? Do they need to be updated? Do they need to be cleaned? Right? Do you have a hot water tank outside or a nye? Or where is it located? Are these all things that need to be moved and thought about? You have gas lines, you have plumbing lines, you have electrical lines. These are things that run underground outside your house. And if you're thinking about adding an addition that needs footers and piers, now you're talking about digging. Now we're looking at maybe digging into these lines. Again, pre-construction, this is part of that work that your contractor can help do. But if you have these thoughts and already have them notated, it's just one step easier. And for most of the time, if you call your electrical companies, they should be able to, we have a number, I don't know if this is national or if this is just locally, but it's like 888, and they can come look and find out where your lines are for free. So you don't need to hire somebody to do that for you. You can call them and ask them yourself and set that up. So you just save some money from having a third party person. Just call the same number that you can call and do it for free. And I don't even know if you need to be on site for it. So that seems like a easy win there, right? So easy little things like that can add up quickly when you're talking about a pre-construction planning. And having an idea what you want is super helpful because now you can pinpoint what it is, and then the designer or the contractor can start really honing in on that design and then making those preliminary designs for you that you can sign off on. But it cuts out a lot of the time that's the back and forth about what you actually want. You can always go on Houzz and Pinterest and find your inspiration for your designers, and then they can actually curate those things for you. But if you have a vision, if you have some insight, that will go a long way. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. You can 100% go into a contractor or a designer and say, I really don't know what I want. I just know that I want to update that. Totally cool. But you do need to know you're going to be spending part of that budget is going to be in that space of that preliminary designing and pre-planning for your construction project. Now, pre-construction project also is the permitting. It is going to be the engineering plans. So those are things that might be unavoidable for you if you are not an architect and can't do your own designs. So what can you do for your pre-planning? Because you still need to have some sort of pre-planning with your designer and your contractor, right? We know this is going to happen, but we really want to cut back that cost as much as we can so you can really utilize it all for your actual work that you're going to be doing. Now, interior designers are doing a lot of work. They are doing your schematics. They're curating, they're shopping around and finding your finishes, okay? So to really cut down that cost it's going to be more of, this is what I want. This is my inspiration. This is really how I want to feel in my home. If you can identify those three main things, and then also come with them with how you move in your home, how you want to move in your home, and how you want to feel in your home. These are major things that you can identify prior to talking to your interior designer, that they don't have to spend any time working back and forth with you. They might have some questions of their own that they like to dive a little deeper in just to get to know you better. Totally. Everyone has their own process. But if you can hone in on that and really get an idea of what it is that you want, that's part of the step right there. That's a good portion that's left. You can take that off the table for the interior designer. Now you can really get into the good stuff of really getting those preliminary drawings started, and they can start sourcing the fixtures and the finishes that you want. And then for your pre-construction, just understanding, maybe even get a survey done. You can do all these things too. You can get a survey done. You can contact an engineer for yourself to get plans started. You can even do an architect first. So you can call an architect if you say, I want to add an addition. So you can contact those people ahead of time, so you're not paying a contractor's fee on top of an architect and a structural engineer's prices. Other things you can do to get ready for your home renovation, that pre-planning, is you can, one, we already talked about last week, know your budget, know your comfort levels, and get really familiar with where you want to spend that money. So if your priority isn't in, like, if you have a larger budget, but you really don't have that much attachment to wanting to update something, and it comes in at a higher cost, and you're just like, you know what, this just wasn't my priority. Totally cool, but just know where you sit. And then it's helpful to share that with your contractor. Like, this is something I'd like to do. I really don't want to spend this much. Is that realistic? And you know what? That actually helps with that. That cuts down that actual budget and where you're comfortable spending. So you might have a large budget, but your comfort level might actually be much lower. Know that. Know those numbers like the back of your hand when you're having these conversations with your contractor, because again, you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time. If you're going back and forth and they come back with a bid and it's higher than what you were actually really wanting to spend in that space. No problems with that. You just want to have that understanding, because it's just like, just know it ahead of time. Now you don't have to go back and forth and waste everyone's time. So, and you know what, to be fair, you might not always know that until you see the numbers. And you're like, wow, this actually was way more. Have conversations with them. They might be able to work things out. Sometimes they might put some numbers in there that will cover the unforeseeable stuff. And other times it could just be like their allowances for like your finishes. What you might select might be a little higher, and you can kind of cut that back. But that's a detail. That's a detail that, you don't really have to focus on. What you need to know is just know your comfort zones in your budgets and for what work you're going to do. Another thing you can do is understand, again, where your jurisdiction lies, who you need to contact for permits. You don't need to take the permit out. Your contractor can do that. But knowing some of the guidelines, some of the rules will be really helpful and be in your favor, so you can actually keep up and understand what's happening in your project and like why things can or cannot happen. And having that ahead of time will just, again, cut that little piece out where you don't have to do that extra legwork. Your contractor doesn't have to do the legwork. Like, here, I already have the survey. We don't have to hire somebody else to do it. It's done. Here are the setback rules. All good, right? You can also have an idea for like a schedule. You can get like a critical path. Now, your contractor is going to have their own scheduling, but if you want to just say, I think this is the critical path, here's the detailed scope of work. These are things that are so helpful to have when you're getting ready to get to your contractor. Things that are also not a back and forth thing that you can save the money on for that pre-construction work. You're kind of making their job a lot easier. To have these things in place before you call your contractor, before you call your designer, is going to help save a little bit of money on the contractor side. Now, your contractor and your designer are still going to have some preliminary work that they have to do. And just to give you an example, I spent multiple hours today going over jobs, not just with their estimating, make sure that we can fill in and stick with their budget, but we're also calling trades and getting bids. We are talking schedule. So we also need to schedule out these jobs and make sure that they're, one, realistic, and two, that they are strategic. Okay. There's a lot of planning. You got to have, know when inspections are needed and what you can do around what kind of work can you do while you're waiting on inspections, right? So if you're framing and you still need to put your mechanicals in, you cannot put your insulation in. You can't get insulation in your house until you have your mechanicals in and until you have those mechanicals inspected. And so what can you do? What's something that's able to happen in that meantime? You can start working on the exterior work, right? While those MEPs are started, there's the exterior work. So these are things that a contractor will still need to do. It doesn't hurt as a homeowner to have like an idea and maybe a suggestion, but they still need to hire their crews. They still need to make sure that the right people are going to be on your job and that it makes sense timeline wise. They're also going to be the experts in your jurisdictions. So they're going to know more of the in and outs of like, how long does it actually take to get a permit? How long do inspectors take to actually show up? Are they next day? Are they a couple of weeks out? And if so, they're going to have to schedule their schedule strategically around that. Those are nuances that you don't need to know, that you don't have to know. It's just things that a contractor who works in that area is just going to have a little bit more savvy around. So if we want to recap why this pre-construction, pre-design step is something you cannot afford to miss, and if you want to go the extra step and do a little bit extra before you even call your designer and your contractor, that these are the few things that you can do to save a little bit of money on the front end that will also save you money overall, right? So know, as far as the design side goes, understand what's important to you. How do you want to feel in your home? How do you move in your home? How do you want to move in your home? What's going to be the purpose of your renovation? Are you expanding your kitchen because you entertain a lot and you need storage for your entertaining dishes? Do you want to just have a Zen den and this is going to need certain types of electrical outlets or maybe more electrical outlets for your office or game room, right? So these are things you want to have an idea of when you're coming to a designer. Know how you want to feel in it, know what your end result is, why and how you move, not why, but like how you move in your home and how you're going to want to move around your space are going to be crucial steps for your designer to know. If you can come with some inspiration, so just do some internet searches. There's lots of inspiration out there, so just grab some things that you like. They'll help you piece it together, but you're giving them a little bit of an insight of who you are and what you like. They'll have their own questions, I'm sure, but those few things will help mitigate a lot of that back and forth time that will cost you money long term. And that money that you can use there can actually go towards your actual renovation budget and maybe some new finishes that cost a little bit more. And you're like, I really want those, but that price point with what I've already spent doesn't really add up. All right, so let's save you a little bit on that forefront. And then for your construction, you can call a survey. You can find out where your easements are if you're adding any square footage to your home. You can learn more about your jurisdiction by going to your city hall or your town hall, wherever your permits office is, and ask them what setbacks are, what you need to know when it comes to this renovation that you want, what rules. If you're adding like an ADU, you want to know if it's even something feasible that you can do. They'll be more than happy to say that to you and let you know. So you don't have to hire a contractor to find that information out for you because they're going to charge you hourly for that. You can also hire a structural engineer and an architect to get that preliminary stuff started. And again, that is something that a contractor can do for you, but you're also going to be paying the contractor fee on top of that. So if you can do that ahead of time, you're saving a little bit more on the forefront. The benefit, though, if you're hiring it through your contractor, is it's somebody that they trust. If you don't know an architect or a structural engineer that you can get access to. So there's some, wins and there's pros and cons with that. But if you want to save some money in the big picture and that preliminary spots, these are things that you can do to get familiar with that pre-construction step that will really make a big difference. It always comes down to the planning. If the planning isn't done well, if your selections aren't done in the beginning, if you don't have your budget, you need to know your budget and your comfort levels in there. Those are things that are going to affect the ultimate end result. Okay? So the less amount of change orders that you make, the less amount of the more clear you are in the beginning is going to set the tone for your whole renovation. So make sure that you do some of these preliminary steps if you want to save a few bucks. And if you have a contractor that you've already hired, make sure that these steps are being taken so that way your job is going to go as seamlessly as possible. Okay? So if you like this information, if you want more and you want to understand how you can better package up your renovation before you hire a contractor, look at the show notes. I'm going to put in my Blueprint Collective. It is where I help you basically create that pretty little package for your designers and for your contractors and say, let's go. I have done all this preliminary work and I'm ready for us to start moving and grooving. All right. That is going to be the Blueprint Collective. I'm going to be opening the doors here soon in a few weeks. And this is going to be my second round of founders. So if you want to be one of the first founders of the Blueprint Collective, this is your time to get in. More importantly, though, if you want to have the least amount of stress when it comes to your home renovation, that's already a stressful event, join us and let's get you ready for your home renovation. I will catch you next time. I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. Thank you for hanging out today. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you hit subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.